Hello and welcome back to Race Recap. My name is Jackson. This past weekend we had the Xfinity Series and the Cup Series racing on the High Bank Super Speedway of Talladega. So the Xfinity Series started us off Saturday evening after the ARCA race, which will be in a separate video. It was 113 laps at Talladega. The first caution brought out pretty early on when the 44 Alpha Prime racing car of Ryan Ellis spun around after he had a left rear tire go down, exiting turn 2. And then the second caution was the Stage 1 winner of the 8, Josh Berry. The third caution was a semi-big one, I guess you could say. At the super speedways, Daytona, Talladega, and now Atlanta, I guess, there's always going to be one of those big ones, most likely, since everyone's so bunched up together. The third accident happened, coming to the end of stage number 2, the 91 of Mason Massey, a Mario Goslin car, spun down the track after some contact with the 8 of Josh Berry, and he slammed hard into the wall. It was an awkward angle Massey hit at. He was kind of sliding, and he hit one of the ejected out walls that projects out of the inner wall. So he was okay, though, after that big hit. He actually got 2 tires off the ground when he hit it. And then also Josh Berry, the Stage 1 winner, got involved in this. I said when they made contact, he had some contact later on the incident with the 66 of J.J. Ailey. They both got up into the outside wall. So did the 26 of Chandler Smith, making his Xfinity Series debut. Unfortunately, that did end his day in the 26 Sam Hunt Toyota. And then the 02 of Brett Moffitt spun down the backstretch as well. And that did take him to the end of stage 2, which went to the 7 of Justin Allgaier. The fourth caution was for debris on track off the 8 of Josh Berry. The fifth caution was involving the 11 of Daniel Hemrick and the 54 of Ty Gibbs, 2 big names in the Xfinity Series. They made contact on the outside line. Daniel Hemrick ended up pretty hard into the outside wall. And then Ty Gibbs spun down the track, collecting his teammate, the 19 of Brandon Jones. And he was also hit by the 44 of Ryan Ellis. And also back behind us, the 08 of David Starr must have had a little bit of contact. We didn't see it in the replay, but he spun out down the back stretch and had some pretty big nose damage, which did end his day. And then the sixth caution was brought out when the 5 of Matt Mills got up into the turns 1 and 2 outside wall. The seventh caution was when the 48 of Kaz Gralla was in a pretty big accident. It's usually Jade Buford, but the team owner for the 48 Big Machines Racing Motorsports, that Chevrolet for 48, they were trying to interchange some drivers, so Kaz will be in the car for a couple races instead of Jade Buford. So it all started when the 19 of Brandon Jones was trying to make a quick lane change from the top to the middle in front of his teammate, the 18 of Drew Dollar. He misjudged it a little bit, and he spun out right up into the side of the 48 of Kaz Gralla, who then slid up into the outside wall, collecting the 68 of Brandon Brown. Then Jones spun back down the track with the 18 of Drew Dollar and was later hit by the 6 of Ryan Vargas. Then the eighth caution was a big accident. Well, I mean, it wasn't big, but the hits were really big. The one of Sam Mayer and the 21 Austin Hill, who were up at the front of the pack, got together and they both slid. Mayer nosed it hard into the inside wall, and Austin Hill actually hit driver's side into the inside wall. Luckily, they were both okay. And then the ninth caution looked like a resemblance of that crash. This time it was on the outside wall. It happened when the 2 and the 45, Cesar Baccarella and the 45 Alpha Prime car, tough day for Alpha Prime, and then the 2 was Sheldon Creed. They both nosed it into the outside wall after they made contact, and it did end both of their days, but they were okay. And that sent them to an overtime finish. Well, actually, the 8th caution sent them to overtime. Now they're in double overtime, and we're not done yet. We have to go to triple overtime after the 10th caution flag was brought out when the 51 of Jeremy Clements stalled it on track. He may have been out of fuel. A lot of guys were starting to run out of fuel. And then the checker flags went to the 9 of Noah Gragson. Top 10 here were Noah Gragson, Jeffrey Earnhardt. How about that? Jeffrey Earnhardt, crew chief Larry McReynolds for the one-off race in RCR. Glad to see Larry back on the box. Unfortunately, couldn't get the win. And then third was A.J. Allmendinger, Ryan Sieg, Landon Cassidy, Anthony Alfredo, Riley Herbst, Joe Graf Jr., Myatt Snyder, and Brett Moffitt rounding out top 10. And actually it was A.J. Allmendinger who got the $100,000 in the dash for cash this weekend. DNFs in this race, Justin Allgaier, how about this? He was leading, coming to the last overtime, but it looked like he ran out of fuel and was out of the race for the fuel pressure issue. Only needed 2 more laps. He had been pretty dominant and was leading the race when he had to pull out of line because of the fuel pressure issue. And then Sheldon Creed was out for the accident, along with Cesar Baccarella. Brandon Jones was out for the damaged vehicle policy. Austin Hill, Sam Mayer, Kaz Gralla, Brandon Brown, and Matt Mills all out for accidents. The Ryan Ellis, David Starr, and Daniel Hemrick were all out for damaged vehicle policy. J.J. Daly was out for damaged vehicle policy. Ty Gibbs, Mason Massey, and Chandler Smith all out for accidents. The next day, it was the Geico 500, 188 laps for the new next-gen cars and the Cup Series. Early on the first cycle of pit stops, the 51 of Cody Ware came in a little too hot into the entrance of pit road under green, and he spun out but was able to keep it going straight, so there was no caution. The first caution of the day was a pretty big incident which took him to the end of stage 1. It happened when the 16 colleague Chevrolet of Daniel Hemrick in the car this weekend. They were going through 3 and 4. Hemrick was riding smoothly on the inside line, and his engine cut off, so he just kind of dropped like a rock through the field. Luckily, the guys behind him, Austin Dillon right behind him, were able to have the heads up to avoid him. Hemrick ended up spinning on the apron and came back up the track, right into the side of the 14 of Chase Briscoe, and then Briscoe went up into the outside wall with the 17 of Chris Buescher, so a double whammy there for Chase Briscoe, but they were all 3 drivers were okay. And that took me into stage 1, which went to the 23 of Bubba Wallace. He won at Talladega last time we were here in the fall. And then the second caution was for the 44 of Greg Biffle, who stopped on track. The third caution was on the 78 of BJ McLeod. We saw another tire come off. This time it was the 78 car. His rear tire was coming off the car. It didn't quite come off, but when he spun exiting 2, the tire did come off. So that will most likely be a penalty for that team. And then the fourth caution was the so-called big one on that restart. Up at the very front of the field, the 22 of Joey Logano got a push from the 23 of Bubba Wallace that he could not handle because he was pushing the car in front of him, and it just didn't add up for Logano. He nosed it into the outside wall and then came back down the track right into the 42 of Ty Dillon, and also collected a 99 of Daniel Suarez and the Harrison Burton in the 21. Austin Cindric in the 2 went spinning down the apron. The 47 of Ricky Stenhouse Jr., he actually got tagged when Logano was sliding back down the track, and then he nosed it into the outside wall. That ended his day. And back behind this, a couple of Fords got together. The 41 of Cole Custer checked up and was hit in the back by the 38 of Todd Gilliland. And then the fifth caution was for the 51 of Cody Ware, who had a lot of contact with his teammate, the 15, David Reagan, and both at Rick Ware Racing cars. And after the contact, Ware slid up the track, probably cut a tire down then, and then slid into the outside wall. And then the sixth caution was the stage 2 winner, William Byron. And then there was no caution on that last cycle of pit stops. Exiting pit road, the 2 Joe Gibbs teammates, the 20 of Christopher Bell and the 18 of Kyle Busch, made contact, and Bell actually slid at the exit of pit road, able to put it in reverse and get going without any issues. And then coming to the checkered flag on the white flag lap, as we know, the checkered flag is not where it usually would be at a normal track. At Talladega, it's past the tri-oval and down towards turn number 1. That's a unique position. It'll either help you or hurt you here. And in this case, it hurt a couple drivers because they all wrecked right where the tri-oval was. Both the 2311 cars actually wrecked. It was the 43 Petty GMS car. Eric Jones was leading the field, exiting turn 4, but then the 5 of Kyle Larson tried to make a move to the outside after a big run from the 1 of Ross Chastain, which gave Larson the push up there. Unfortunately, they both made contact and made a little contact with the outside wall, but that definitely slowed their speed down. And back behind this, there was a bunch of contact. William Byron slid up into the outside wall, and the 45 of Kurt Busch nosed it into the outside wall, came back down, and just barely tagged his 2311 teammate of Bubba Wallace, who then nosed it hard into the outside wall. All 3 of those guys were okay. And then also sliding across the line was the 7 of Corey LaJoie after some contact with Michael McDowell. But the overall winner of the race went to the 1 of Ross Chastain. He just held his line and went straight. Didn't do any moving or blocking. Just went on straight and let everyone else wreck in front of him. So the top 10 here were Ross Chastain, Austin Dillon, Kyle Busch, Kyle Larson, Martin Truex Jr., Eric Jones fell all the way back to 6. Chase Elliott, Michael McDowell, Alex Bowman, and Kevin Harvick rounded out top 10. The Nelson's race, Todd Gilliland was out for the accident. Cody Ware ended up out with a damaged vehicle policy. Cole Custer had engine problems. I'm not sure if that was related to the accident. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. was out for the accident. Daniel Suarez was out with the damaged vehicle policy. Joey Logano was out for the accident, along with Ty Dillon and Harrison Burton. The 44 of Greg Biffle had fuel pump issues. Daniel Hemrick, Chase Briscoe, and Chris Buescher all out for that accident. And then Tyler Reddick in the 8 was out with an engine problem early on as well. Well, that's all for race recap. Come join us next weekend when we have the Xfinity Series and the Cup Series racing on the Monster Mile. That's Dover Speedway.